I tried to find my more realistic looking handgun toys, but I couldn't find them. I promise I looked. The only thing I could find was this giant fucking Nerf gun for this suicide joke. I don't know, man. Is it an insult to say that somebody's video looks yellow? No one knows what the fuck you're talking about, unless you explain it. And if you explain it, it's a waste of time. What universe am I in? Where the fuck am I? Where am I that we can even talk about this? Why is this happening? It's the same shit. It's the same fucking show. Nothing has changed. The only difference is that it's even more boring.
So, although I'm new to making videos for the anime analysis community, it's something I've been following for a good 4 years now. I've been here long enough to have seen several people come and go, and watched several upstart YouTubers rise to glory. I was watching the Pedantic Romantic back when he only had 5,000 viewers. I was watching Mother's Basement back when he was only around 20,000 subs. And I was following Best Guy Ever for a long time back when he only had 8,000 subs or so. And I'll still be supporting upstart analysis channels like Cartoon Cypher, Crodsforce, and Rikafag, who at this time only has a period for a username. I've been around on this community long enough to remember back when Jess Otaku was a big thing, and I was a big follower of Podtaku before all the people disbanded and went their separate ways. I say all this to make the point that when I say I can't stand Digibro, and at this point I don't understand how anyone even respects him as a content creator, that people don't think I'm just ranting off about some content creator because he happened to insult my favorite show. No, the reason I'm even bothering to make this video is because I want to get some stuff out of the air. I can't stand Digibro, and I can't stand his content. I personally think most of his videos are filled to the brim with pseudo-intellectual ideas that if any of his viewers actually took the time to listen to what he's saying in his main channel videos, that they would realize that his videos are mostly just him talking about complete nonsense that sounds like it means something because he constantly tries to use 4-syllable words that don't even belong in most of the sentences that he's using them in, and most of the time end up just sounding like word salad that by the end of the video ends up being the equivalent of 2 + 2.
Supposing that all of time is happening at once, and that all existence springs from the shifting of a collective atom pool, and that inspiration surfs the tide of a global intellectual gestalt, maybe it's not a totally weird idea to arrange a bunch of unrelated shows into a timeline based not on when they aired, but on how they evolve the understanding of a particular set of circumstances.
But the fact that I don't like his content isn't why I have a problem with Digibro. I have a problem with Digibro and to a further extent the community around him, because Digibro is so hypocritical in everything he does, it approaches intellectual dishonesty, especially in the videos that he puts out on his After Dark channel. Now, before I start my rant, I'd like to point everyone to the YouTuber What who has already put out 2 videos extensively covering this, and advise people to already go ahead and watch those videos, so I don't have to repeat anything that was already covered. In fact, most of what I'm covering is just going even further into things that he didn't cover inside his videos that have just piled up in the past few months and has made it more and more obvious. Back to what I was saying, to get what I mean by this and why I have a problem, let's first start by talking about what does intellectual dishonesty mean. According to the dictionary, it's defined as when one avoids an honest, deliberate, and comprehensive approach to a matter because it may introduce an adverse effect on personality and professionally held views and beliefs. So how does this apply to Digibro? As many of you might know, a few months ago, Digi made a video ranting about Giguk's video on Your Name, and how he can't stand Giguk's video, and to a further extent most of his content because he spends so much time beating around the bush and talking about himself and how the show applies to him before getting to the point.
First of which I'll get into later, but the second of which that finally set me off was a new Giguk video came out, and I was excited when I saw the title. I was on r/anime and I saw a video called Konosuba, Why It's Funny. Now what excited me about this is that there's not enough people talking about comedy in anime right now. Not enough people dissecting how comedy works. So I was excited at the idea. I saw 10 minutes about Konosuba. Whoa, 10 minutes. That's plenty of time to make a good point. I started the video, and the first 3 minutes are Well, I don't really like a whole lot of comedy anime because usually I don't even crack a smile when I'm watching these shows, but every once in a while I actually crack a smile when watching a show. It's really rare, but it's really special when it happens, and so I'm gonna analyze this show and why it made me actually laugh for once in my... I don't fucking care! And this is not just a Giga problem. This is an everyone problem. Everyone just fucking... I'm so sick of hearing how you came to this point of writing this video. It doesn't matter. Cut that out of your video. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about how you thought you weren't gonna like the show, but you did like the show! Whoa!
The problem with this whole rant is that a few months prior to this video, in one of the PCP videos that Digi's a part of on one of his friend's side channels, is he talks about how when he makes content, he makes it about himself and how it affects him, and that really because everything is subjective, that this is the only meaningful way to do a video, because anything else is worthless.
Anything else on top of it.
Yeah, the interesting thing about it isn't so much
I tend to use the thing I'm reviewing as a gateway to analyze myself.
Right. Yes, that's totally true.
And I love that because, like, what I'm interested in is not what you're going to tell me about the show. I'm interested in what you're going to tell me about yourself through the show.
Because, like, what is a show but a tool with which we learn about ourselves?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, like, that's the main appeal. Like, when I do my analysis videos, none of it is trying to get to the heart of what this show is and what it means, and like, in terms of the creators, like... I do like using creative intent. Like, I enjoy putting that in, like, I enjoy looking at it and putting it into my reviews. But, like, my goal is not to say, how well did the guy who made this accomplish what he set out to do? My goal is to say, like, why do I react to this the way that I do? Why does this make me feel the things I feel? Why do people... why do other people feel the way they do about it, you know? Like, because, yeah, like you said, the point of art, really, like, the appeal of it is that it shows us something about ourselves,
so
you know, or it shows us something about the world.
So here we have, a few months later, Digibro going off on a rant about how all these content creators make terrible videos, even though they do the exact same thing you said a few months ago was the best way to make a video. And that's the underlying problem with Digibro. Everyone else is doing everything the wrong way, except when he did it the same way that they did it, because obviously he can never do something wrong. No, it's just a misunderstanding when he did something that he called other people out on. If that one point isn't good enough to open people's eyes, well, luckily for me, I have more. A lot more. Similarly to my last point, in an old PCP video that was about commenter rules, he talks about how he hates comment sections and how he thinks they need to go away because they ruin the art piece that is the YouTube video by essentially allowing people to run up to the face of the artist and tell them that they suck. And how terrible it would be if people could just run up to people like Zack Snyder and tell them that the Batman vs. Superman movie sucked. He calls this ridiculous and that no one should be allowed to do that.
Not a friendship. The YouTube sphere is a place where you put ideas and then people shit on them because that's just the way they feel like doing it.
But that's the thing. I don't think it makes sense to be that way. Like I said, there's never a time, like, if we all watched Batman v Superman and we all thought it was a huge piece of shit, no one walks up to Zack Snyder on the street and goes, your movie's a fucking piece of shit. We make internet videos. We posted on our blogs for our audiences, for us to discuss with our friends. We don't go up to the fucking guy and tell him he's a piece of shit because he made a movie we kind of didn't like.
Isn't that possibly worse that you're, like, you're sharing this opinion with all these people? I mean, they probably haven't formed an opinion yet. I mean, if you're doing that, aren't you convincing these people to maybe be that guy and to, you know, engage in that?
I'm convincing them to feel the way I feel, but not to confront Zack Snyder himself.
Well, obviously,
with it.
yeah.
Not to go up to the guy and tell him he's a bad person because he made a movie I don't
know, though, like, doesn't he need to hear that, like, dude, your movie fucking sucked, do a better job next time?
Not necessarily, because he's just doing what he...
I don't know, how many shitty Hollywood movies do we have to get before they hear some real criticism about how fucked up it all is?
Sure, from the perspective of, like, business, right? Like, if the people who are paying him are listening to the commenters because they care about making good movies, then it's up to them to tell him, hey, we don't like what you're doing, and we're not going to let you have this budget. But Zack Snyder himself, we don't know what his intentions are. Maybe he doesn't give a fuck about making good movies. He's just doing what he feels like doing, and that's completely fine.
That's not fine.
Do that. But then once again, we go back to that same Giguk video, and we hear Digi talking about how he's making this video in the hopes that Giguk will see this video so he can tell them that his content sucks.
I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. How do I talk to these fucking people? I don't know how to just approach Gigic and tell him everything I think is wrong with his videos. Why the fuck would he care? It has to get out somewhere, though. If there's any chance that he'd hear this and cut that part out of his script. You know, and I'm not even going to talk about all the YouTubers who are just garbage. Like, I made a video, or I made some tweets about how I was going to, like, rag on a bunch of YouTubers, and everyone's like, talk about the anime man. You think I can sit...
Now, before anyone says anything, yes, in the Comments or Rules video, they talk about how people should be free to have their own platforms to go and trash talk YouTubers. And they say that that's fine, because the artist doesn't have to see it. But you see, the Giga Rant video doesn't even fit close to this idea, because Digi himself in the video expressly says that he's making the video because he wants to tell the people in the video directly what he's saying, but can't because he doesn't know how to contact them. If that's not good enough, there's also another PCP video where he talks about how he hates it when he watches a video game review and someone doesn't have an interesting, well thought out or skit to go along with the video, or something that tells them about the person's personality to go along with the video, and that if it doesn't do one of these things, that's just wasting everyone's time.
So, like, I think he's achieving his goals, you know?
Yeah,
now,
sure.
let me devil's advocate here a little bit, Digi. What is this you speak of? You speak of don't just talk about whatever comes into your purview. Are you implying that there needs to be, or should be, ideally, some sort of relevance or point to a video in its context of when it came out and the culture it's in?
Yeah, I think if you make a review, it should be like I said this. I ranted about this in my Bloodborne Let's Play, but like in episode 3, if anyone's curious, because I go on a huge rant and it's awesome. But like I was talking about how if your review of a show, like the end of it is that you say that there was nothing interesting about the show, then there's nothing interesting about your review.
And you know, I agree with him on this matter. And that's why I'm working on a review for Pokemon Sun and Moon right now, where I go so far as to create a program to chart and measure EXP growth rates side by side between Pokemon generations, just to prove one of my points. But you know who doesn't seem to agree with this idea? Digibro himself. Yep, just a few days ago, Digi released a video on Mario Odyssey talking about how the game looks terrible, even though by self-admittance he hasn't even played the game.
Like, here's a big thing I want from reviews. I want you to watch the show or play the game or whatever, and then, like, talk about it in terms that make sense for that work.
And if you watch the video, it ends with him saying something along the lines of, I don't know, I just don't like it. Everything in the game is dull and colorful, and I don't need a reason not to like something.
Look at this little just square room. Everything's shiny and shitty. I don't like it. That's the long and short of it. I don't need a reason, goddammit.
Which is a great leap of logic by itself, by the way. I mean, imagine if I went around saying, I don't like black people. They're nothing but uneducated, two-handed crooks. Sure, I've never met an uneducated black person or been robbed by one, but I shouldn't have to have a reason to hate people. No, people don't do that, and they most certainly wouldn't say it out loud because it sounds retarded, because it is. But regardless of how dumb what Digi was saying in the video, the real underlying point here is that he uploaded a commentary on a game that goes and flies in the face of just about everything he said that he wanted to see in game reviewers. And then he even got upset when people started downvoting his video. Oh yeah, that's right. It's not good enough that Digibro put out a video that buys everything he says he hates when other YouTubers do it. No, he also has to go on a long tirade on Twitter about how no one was listening to his points, and that only the people that understand what he's talking about actually agree with him, because of course he can never be wrong. And then gets mad at the responses to the video and even bans any people from his Twitter feed who respond to the video saying that he seems like he's trying to be a contrarian. We also can't forget the time Digibro made a video talking about how it's a good thing that there's more anime, and there can never be too much anime. And he even made a response video to that anime snob, where he goes into talking about distribution curves, meaning that more anime is a good thing, and it just makes more good anime.
The matter is that this whole video is about percentages. It's all about me saying that there were fewer anime in the past, but that meant that there were only 2 good shows on at a time. Whereas now, there's more shows, which means that the same percentage are good, which means there's more good shows. That means that, whereas, let's say that 1 out of 10 shows were good in the 90s, and now that the number of shows has been multiplied by 5, which means that 5 out of 50 shows are good now. Which ultimately means more good anime. More good anime than ever before. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the point I'm making.
Oh wait, What's one of his most recent videos? Oh, that's right, he literally has a video titled "There's Too Much Anime."
Episode. Did anybody ask for this? Does anybody like this? Does this have a reason to exist? Now I know what you're thinking. How can too many shows possibly be a problem? I mean, if you're not somebody who has to make anime analysis for a living, you're probably just gonna ignore most of these shows anyways. And hey, maybe somebody out there likes it. Why would we deprive them of these shows? Well, for the consumer, it really isn't a problem. But for the anime industry, it's definitely worth looking at. Some people isn't enough to put money in the pockets of the people making the shows. Some people isn't enough to justify the insane amount of anime getting made that no one cares about. Imagine if we consolidated all of that talent and effort from all those lackluster shows and put them into the good shows, boosting them to even greater heights. Shows like Mahotsukai no Yome and less of this shit that nobody asked for and nobody's going to watch, and more of the stuff that we're all hoping for. The matter is that this whole video is about percentages. It's all about me saying that there were fewer anime in the past, but that meant that there were only 2 good shows on at a time. Whereas now, there's more shows, which means that the same percentage are good, which means there's more good shows.
Outside of talking about just sheer hypocrisy on Digibro's part, there are also other things that Digibro has done that just aren't intellectually honest. A great example is the recent dramatic fallout within the PCP where they kicked out Mumkey Jones because Mumkey knew people that had trolled someone that was in the PCP. Now, if you want to know the full details of what went on and all that drama, there's a YouTuber called YKick that did a good job covering it and compiled about a 50-minute anthology pointing out what happened behind the scenes and a lot of the deception on Digibro's behalf that I'll link in the video. But for the sake of my sanity, let me just list a few of the things Digibro said that were either outright lies or knowingly dishonest. One huge thing was that Digi claims that Mumkey lied when he published his video about him getting kicked out, saying that he was also kicked out of the insufferable social media podcast as well, even though Digi know full well that that's not what Mumkey said in the video. Digi also claim that Jess and him started the PCP even though everyone within the PCP knows, and has even said it several times in the podcast, that Best Guy Ever created the PCP. And for me, probably one of the biggest signs of intellectual dishonesty in the video is when Digi starts talking about how he doesn't like Mumkey's content and that he thought the guy's content's been bad for a while now. Boy, that sure is strange considering even the people in the PCP were surprised by Digi's statements about this.
And Jesse's like, yeah, but that and this and that thing that Mumkey did. And then Digi's dropping fucking bombshells like, I never liked Mumkey in the PCP. What? I never could have fucking guessed that. And it's like...
And even the fact that Digibro had allowed Mumkey to come over to his house where they recorded Let's Plays together just in the past couple months, along with having their own podcast that they do weekly with each other. Wow, it sure is convenient that when your friend asks you to kick out another friend, that it turns out you'd hated them and had held animosity against them. Man, that sure doesn't feel like a cop-out that an elementary school kid would tell his friends to cover up for the fact that he's a jerk.
Your shit's gotten stale, dude, and you need to fucking rectify yourself before you come swinging at everybody else and painting yourself as the victim in a scenario where you are not the victim. And don't try to act like I canceled ISMA when I fucking told you I'd do the last 2 episodes. And I still will if you want to. Peace!
And here's one of my favorites, that when Digibro talks about subjectivity, and that he doesn't even believe that something can be objectively good or bad. And that sure is odd for someone who has even gone as far as to make a video talking about animes that shouldn't exist at all, citing things like sales, popular opinions, art style, profitability, effort on the behalf of the studio that put it out, and even the amount of exposure that they were ever able to get. And that he can say all that, all while saying that everything is subjective. So, you know, even though by his own logic there are some animes that make no sense to have ever been made.
Less of this shit that nobody asked for and nobody's going to watch, and more of the stuff that we're all hoping for.
But they're also just as good as Fullmetal Alchemist because, you know, everything's subjective. How else are you going to defend that K-On! Is the greatest anime ever while also dropping Monster?
It's like if someone was pissing in the middle of the street and everyone was staring at him, and then he yelled out, "I'm pissing in the middle of the street!" And everyone was like, oh, well, at least he knows what he's doing, and went back to shit-tweeting on their phones. Just because that guy admits that he's pissing in the street doesn't make him a functional individual.
And you know, in a similar way, the same logic works for you as well, Digi. If you go around saying everything is subjective, but every action you do points to the idea there's an objective way of finding if something is good, like your also-claimed one-episode test for dropping an anime, then excuse me for saying you're full of crap. And finally, as we approach the end of the video, we get to one of the more recent problems with Digi and his hardcore stance against comment sections.
But, you know, it's never gonna be that when you scroll down. I just don't get how people think that they deserve to be able to comment on stuff. Like, who are you? Why do you get to have this platform given to you by this content creator, you know? And
no, it sure is odd that for someone that goes on and on about how the whole point of his main channel and his After Dark channel is to create a community where people like him can go and talk about ideas and help prove to the world that living in your house and doing nothing but watching anime is normal and an acceptable livelihood, even if by his own admission he has to get himself drunk before he can get anything done. But hey, you know, whatever. That he would also think that comments shouldn't be allowed in YouTube videos to begin with, even though that's the main form of communication for followers of a YouTuber. Wow, and you know, it sure is strange that it's suddenly become a big deal right after you got a bunch of negative comments on your Mario Odyssey video. I could go on and on for days about the dumb things that Digi has said just in the past few weeks that further prove that most of Digi's actions aren't followed by any strand of logic or reasoning, and some which are probably even lies for the most part, just to find a way for Digi to justify hating someone else so he never has to shift any blame to himself or perform any form of self-reflection. But, you know, where would that get me? I think I've more than proven my point. And you know, personally, I don't care. If Digi wants to contradict everything he said last week to justify why he's a great YouTuber this week, that's fine by me. No, what I care about is the people that watch his content. Don't you ever get tired of being in Digi's endless circle jerk? It's the people watching his content and never tell Digi that they're tired of him pulling this crap all the time that bothers me. And that's why I made this video to begin with. I thought, maybe, just maybe, if I laid all his ducks that seem to be tied to rocks in a row, that maybe his followers might realize that they're being played for the fool.
I'm Digibro. I hate literally everybody. I hope I die soon. I'm tired of living in this fucking world. You all piss me off.